Everyone, in today's video we are going to be learning how to draft this neckline. So if there is something you are interested in, continue watching this video. Greetings and welcome to my channel. My name is Chi and I'm a female fashion designer based in Benin City. So as you can see, I've actually drafted my basic pattern, and for what I used here, I actually used a 3-inch wide and a 2.5-inch deep for the neckline, and I marked out my shoulder measurement, and I also curved out my armhole. Just in case you don't know how to curve your armhole, I'll drop a link in the description box where you can learn that. I've also marked my bust point, my under bust, and the half length of this piece, and I went ahead to insert my waist dart. For the waist dart, I actually used 0.5 to the center and 0.75 to the side. This is not a constant. You can use whatever you want for your waist dart. Now this pattern is actually on fold, and because I'm actually making a neckline that needs me to open my pattern, I have to replicate what I have here. Alright, so as you can see, I actually have what I have here as well. So now we are just going to proceed immediately into what we are making. Now you are going to decide where you want the asymmetric neckline to be. You can decide for it to be at your right or at your left, but I would really advise you that you place it at the point that is very comfortable for your hand to draft while drafting it. So the first thing to do, you are going to measure the inch you want the neckline to be. Now I want the belt here to be 1 inch, so I'm just going to mark 1 inch here like this. So from this point now, remember when I placed my pattern on fold, this is the center of my pattern. You are going to mark your desired neck depth, and this desired neck depth should be a point that is very comfortable for you to wear. Remember, I've already slanted my shoulder by 0.5 inches here, so when I'm placing my tape at the tip here, I'll be taking out 0.5 inch upwards. Now I'm going to be using a neck depth of 6 inches. This is my 6 inches for my neck depth. You're going to determine where you want the slant to be. Well, for me, I actually used 1.5 for this particular piece. I went from the center to the side here by 1.5, but this 1.5 is not a constant. You can actually decide to make your own asymmetric very deeper, something like this that will go very in before it slants. Whichever you want is fine, but for this particular neckline, I went from the front center to the side by 1.5 inch. So now I'm going to connect my neck depth to that part straight up. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use my hand. I'm going to make a curve from this point here to this point here. So I'm just going to connect this first with a dotted line like this. So having made this curve like this, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to connect my bust point line straight up like this. Now I'm going to take my scissors and I would cut this part out. You can see that I'm actually cutting exactly what I have here. Now I'll be adding my sewing allowance when I'm transferring this to my fabric. After I've cut this out like this, I'll first cut out the back. With this piece now, I'm going to place it on my fabric like this. For this dress, the zipper actually stops here at this point. What I did is that I actually added a pressing button at the side of the neck. So now after I cut it like this, I actually went ahead to place it on my fabric and I cut out the back. But while cutting out the back, I ensured that I used a neck depth of 3-inch wide and 1 inch deep for the back neck depth. And I added a zipper allowance to the back zipper part. That was all I did for the back. After I have cut out the back, you can decide to use just a waist dart for it. I actually used a princess dart, so I'm just going to be inserting my princess dart to this now. So now I'm just going to mark out the midpoint of my armhole. So after I've marked the midpoint of my armhole, I'll go ahead to connect a straight line down like this. Ensure that it blends very well here and you don't have any sharp edges. Now after I have marked my princess dart, I'll open it up like this and I'm going to tighten the above bust here. I'm going to be marking a total of 1.5, that is 0.75 at each side. I'm going to connect this line to the bust point. Now I'm actually tightening the above bust so that I will not have any gapping at the neckline. Now I'm going to blend this point so I don't have any sharp angles. I'm just going to go ahead to cut it out, and to cut this out you can actually see that I am cutting one side before cutting the other side. Ensure you don't have any sharp angles. So what I did for the neckline is that I actually turned this part first with my lining, then I went ahead to turn this side with my lining before I joined it together like this. So while transferring this to your fabric, since you want this actual size to be what is left when you are done sewing, you are going to be adding a sewing allowance of whatever you intend using to stitch it with. If you intend sewing it down with 0.5 inch, you are going to add a 0.5 inch sewing allowance here, but for me my stitches most times is a 0.25 inch. So what I did was that I added a sewing allowance of 0.25 inch here, and I also added that same sewing allowance to the neck as well. That's just the only place you need to add a sewing allowance. For the sides here, I actually added enough sewing allowance before I cut it out, but just in case you did not add enough sewing allowance before cutting it out, you can add a sewing allowance to it when transferring it to your fabric. Because you are fitting a pressing button to this point here, you are going to be extending the front part like this by 0.5 inch or 1 inches. Yes, I'm going to be extending this front part, this front neckline upwards like this by 1 inch. This is just so that it would overlap to the back and you would fit your pressing button. So that's that for this neckline. Thank you so much for watching. If you are new to my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow us on Facebook on our Facebook group Sew with Chi, or you can follow our Facebook page Chi Designs and Apparels for more interesting tutorials. Meanwhile, if you got value from this video, kindly like the video, subscribe and tag your sew friends so that they can learn from this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next tutorial.